Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Wednesday edition on the YouTube channel. As everybody knows that follows along, this is the day I'm giving out my top starts and sits for week 13 in fantasy football. It's so crazy. We're already at this point of the season. As you can tell, I got my Christmas stuff up. I'm starting to get around my living room of my apartment. And then, I mean, for most people, I know I'm definitely looking at it. I'm trying to find a way to squeeze in one of my league's playoffs after having most of the points for the majority of the year. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, we got basically 2 weeks until playoffs for most leagues, so it's crunch time. Some people got to get I know there's another league I'm in that all I need is just probably one more win and I'll secure a playoff spot. That's all I'm trying to get as I stumble in to that league's playoffs with all the injuries I've been dealing with. So I hope I have guided some of you guys into the playoffs, or at least can help you close out a playoff spot. So why don't I go ahead and get into this episode. And that definitely sounded like there was a potential accident. If you guys heard that screech, sounds like somebody just slammed on their car's brakes. So hopefully, whatever that was, they're A-OK. But other than that, let me get back on track. Let's dive into the top starts and sits for the quarterback position. My top start, Derek Carr against the football team. The football team secondary, it's been one of the worst in the league. They've been allowing, the most points to the quarterback position, giving up 23.4 points a game. That defense is without Chase Young. They're without Montez Sweat, so they don't have their top two bookend edge rushers that could help maybe get that pressure on Derek Carr, right? So that's always been Derek Carr's biggest issue, is when he's underneath pressure. That's when he struggles. So as long as the interior of that offensive line can hold up against Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen, then yeah, I like Derek Carr to have enough time to pick apart this defense and spread the ball to his wide receivers. Spoiler alert, and this is not the last time I'm talking about the Raiders' passing weapons for Sunday. So yeah, if you're looking for a streaming quarterback option this week, I think Derek Carr, it makes a great amount of makes a great point where you could play him. Because we saw what he did against last week against the Cowboys defense. He was one of the top performing quarterbacks, and I think he can back that up with back-to-back weeks of being one of the top options in fantasy football. My other start of the week, is Tom Brady against the Falcons. Obviously he has, a notable story against the Falcons. He's had past success against the Falcons. And then, as good as A.J. Terrell has been for that secondary in Atlanta, yeah, the rest of it's kind of been ugly, and they have struggled to defend the quarterback position. They have allowed the second most points per game to quarterbacks this year. They've been giving up 20.1. So there was a week after Leonard Fournette got all the featured. I think it's Tom. It's going to bounce back to Tom Brady's way, and he's going to be the one getting 3 to 4 touchdowns on Sunday against that Atlanta defense. And then moving on to my sits, a guy that has helped try to replace Tom Brady as best as he could, especially as a rookie. It's been a pleasant surprise. But with that being said, I would avoid trying to stream Mac Jones if there was anybody considering that this week. He definitely has been a quality option for people when the matchup is right. But this week they're going against the Bills defense. Now I understand, we'll have to see how this Bills defense is going to be going forward, because Tre'Davious White is now done for the season. But thus far, they have allowed the fewest amount of points per game to the quarterback position, getting around 10.5. This game is going to be played in Buffalo, so who knows if it's going to be snowy conditions by Sunday, right? So there could be bad weather conditions. This could be a classic defensive battle out there in cold weather, December football, right? So this might be a game where at least the New England offense is going to rely heavy on their rushing attack. Maybe try to do what Indianapolis did a couple weeks ago. And then my other sit is from that same matchup. Now, listen, unless you have a better option, you're going to play Josh Allen. Okay, I understand that. I'm lucky enough where I helped replace somebody in a league. It's only an 8-team league. In that league, I got Josh Allen, but also have Justin Herbert. So I can go to Herbert in this situation. But unless you happen to be in that situation, which is obviously a super small league, I think you're probably going to play Josh Allen no matter what. But I would temper your expectations this week. First of all, he's going against a Bill Belichick defense, right? So, and it's the Bill Belichick defense is humming right now. That team's, about to be number 1 seed if the Baltimore, if they can win and Baltimore loses this week, right? So with that being said, it's a Bill Belichick defense that's performing really well right now, and the numbers back it up in terms of fantasy. The Patriots have allowed the second fewest amount of points per game to quarterbacks, only giving up 12 points a game. So listen, I totally get it. You're going to play Josh Allen. You're going to play your stud, especially because where you definitely drafted him this year. But, if he has a down outing, don't be surprised. It's just the matchup he has this week. So again, my top starts and sits for the quarterback position. Derek Carr against the football team as a start, as well as Tom Brady against the Falcons. And then my sits, Mac Jones against the Bills and Josh Allen against the Patriots. And then moving on to the running back position, going ahead with my top starts, going with Miles Sanders against the Jets. So, yeah, Miles Sanders has been a very big disappointment for me. Definitely, I was expecting. I had high hopes and high expectations for Miles Sanders. I don't really think that his coaching staff, though, has put him in a situation where he could be successful, at least at the beginning of the year. Then he got hurt, and then that's when the team all of a sudden decided to start running the ball more often. Now he just worked his way back, and then he tweaked his ankle in this game, but he's going to be good to go. And if there was ever a matchup for Miles Sanders to hit his ceiling and to make his fantasy owners happy that they've been holding on to him for this long, hoping for something out of him, it would be this week against the Jets. The Jets have allowed the most allowed points per game against the running back position. They've been giving up 28.5, so there's enough to go around, even if the Eagles want to get Boston Scott involved this week. So enough points to go around, and like I said, if there was ever a matchup to hit Miles Sanders' ceiling for this season, it's this week against the Jets. I would roll him out there if you got him, especially if you need a running back this week. And then listen, if he can't take advantage of this, then yeah, he's probably stuck to your bench. If not, I don't know if I want to deal with it anymore, but running backs are premium at this point of the year as the playoffs come around. So hopefully he's about to get hot for the managers for the playoff run. My other start, going with Elijah Mitchell against the Seahawks. Elijah Mitchell, it looks like this is his backfield. Now he's going to probably see even an uptick in carries because Deebo Samuel's hurt and he was getting lined up in the backfield at times. So Elijah Mitchell's got a great matchup this week going against the Seahawks, who Antonio Gibson just ran all over, as well as J.D. McKissick. So I think Elijah Mitchell is going to continue that against the Seahawks defense, who has struggled this year, especially against the run. They actually have allowed the second most points per game to running backs, are giving up 24.2 points a game. So Elijah Mitchell's hot right now, and anytime you can ride the hot hand of a Kyle Shanahan running back, you got to take it. So if you got Elijah Mitchell, definitely make sure he's in your lineup this week. And then my sits of the week. Now this is kind of, I would say, these names are probably going to go with Josh Allen, guys that you're going to probably play. But again, temper your expectations. If they have a bad outing, the matchup wasn't in their favor. But starting with my top sits, these guys are playing tomorrow night. But it's Ezekiel, Elliott, and Tony Pollard against the Saints. Now, first of all, look at the matchup. The Saints are one of the better rush defenses in the league. They've been the better rush defenses over the last few years. They've allowed the fewest amount of points per game to running backs, only allowing 14.4 points a game. Now, we don't even know what's going to go on with this backfield, right? So, we escaped last Thanksgiving, and the reports were like, oh, Ezekiel Elliott's knee is hurt. They're considering shutting him down at least for 1 week and to get him ready for the home stretch, for the playoff stretch. And then Jerry Jones comes on, sports radio saying, no, Zeke's going to play and we're going to give him a lot of touches. We're going to feed him the rock. So who knows what's going to go on with that. So the way I view it, if you got Zeke, you're going to play Zeke, especially when Jerry Jones is saying we're going to feed the rock to him. I just would not be surprised if all of a sudden they're splitting touches or Zeke's not getting as many touches, but you got to play Zeke if you got him. Now, if you're a Tony Pollard owner and you're like, getting excited about not letting Zeke get as many touches, I definitely understand that. But even if they were to split touches 50-50, I wouldn't really like this matchup because, like I said, the Saints are one of the top defenses against running backs this year. So, again, Ezekiel's more of a temper your expectation play. Pollard's a guy where I would not even try to play him in my flex or anything like that based on this matchup. And then my sit, again, David Montgomery, he's going to get plenty of volume, so I understand why people are going to play him. But he has a rough matchup this week going against that Cardinals defense, who has been pretty stingy on defense. They have only allowed the 33rd fewest amount of points per game to the running back position, only given up 15.7. So yeah, and then I could just be seeing, the Cardinals with Kyler Murray back, with Deandre Hopkins back. I could see them putting up a lot of points where the Bears offense will be more pass happy, and then that would take, rushing attempts away from David Montgomery. So that could definitely put him in a spot where you're not getting as much volume as you're used to as well. So again, my top starts for at the running back position: Miles Sanders against the Jets and Elijah Mitchell against the Seahawks. And then my top sits: Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard against the Saints, and David Montgomery against the Cardinals. So let's keep this thing rolling right into my top wide receiver starts and sits. Like I mentioned, spoiler alert from earlier when I talked about Derek Carr. Hunter Renfrow and Deshaun Jackson against the football team. Maybe if you're in a super deep league, maybe a dart throw at Bryan Edwards. If you need a wide receiver, that's another guy you could consider, especially with Darren Waller more than likely not playing this week. And the matchup is right. They have allowed the fourth most points per game to wide receivers this year, giving up 25.7. Starting with Hunter Renfrow, though, he's coming off a career high in receptions and yards. He's got Derek Carr's trust, and he's probably going to be seeing those same amount of targets, especially with Darren Waller, more than likely, like I said, not playing on Sunday. And then with Deshaun Jackson, he had that big play touchdown last week on Thursday, and then he's going to have his role, right. He's going to see at least one or two deep shots in a game, and then he definitely has played this team since the last time that he played in Washington. But this is technically a revenge game as well, so he's going to want to go off against one of his former teams. So that's something to consider with Deshaun. So if you have one of those two guys, this is definitely a week I would get them in your lineup. And moving on to my other top starts, I was just talking about the Cardinals being putting up a lot of points. I think these guys could be involved with it, but AJ Green and Christian Kirk against the Bears. Listen, DeAndre Hopkins, it looks like he's good to go. Right, so yeah, I don't have to tell you guys to play him. If DeAndre Hopkins is active, you definitely got to play him. But I think AJ Green and Christian Kirk, and maybe even a super dart throw in a deep league at Rondale Moore, could be a viable option this week. They're going against the Bears, who have allowed the fifth most points per game to wide receivers this year, giving up 24.7. And listen, DeAndre Hopkins has been dealing with a hamstring injury as well. We saw that game. He was dealing with it. He kept on inserting. That's the last time I think we did see him against the Packers, right, where he was coming back and forth out of the game. And hamstring, injuries could be re-aggravated. So first of all, I don't want DeAndre to get hurt again. So I'm not saying that could potentially happen, which definitely it could. But if the Cardinals are smart, you got two losses, right? I'm not saying they're going to lose to the Bears, but the Bears shouldn't be a team where you need, DeAndre out there taking 100% of the snaps and reps. So I could see DeAndre having a kind of a smaller than normal role this week. So that means more snaps for AJ Green, Christian Kirk, maybe a Rondale Moore. And like I mentioned, the matchup's right. The Bears have given up a lot of points to the wide receiver position. So if you have one of those two guys, or even, like I said, super deep league dart throw at Rondale Moore, this might be the week to play him before DeAndre takes his full role back. So again, and then my stop, I almost kept it rolling. But yeah, my sits though, before I try to wrap up this segment. My sits, the Patriots wide receivers kind of pulling from Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar. First of all, the Bellatrix is always, which is kind of looks like it's coming back at the running back spot, but the Bellatrix has always been kind of a running back thing in New England. Now it's kind of a wide receiver thing, right? We don't know which Patriots wide receiver is going to go off on any given week. And then you look at the matchup, fewest amount of points per game to the wide receiver position, giving up 13.5. So they don't really give up much points. And like I was talking about earlier with Mac Jones, I could see this Patriots offense leaning on the run. I could see Bill Belichick trying to carry what the Colts did 2 weeks ago into his offense and, try to take advantage of the rushing attack against Buffalo. So, and like I said, it's basically a dart throw for what Patriots wide receiver is going to have a great fantasy performance that week. And then my last sit, another trio of wide receivers, but Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd against the Chargers. Now listen, like you're probably going to play Jamar Chase. I'm going to be playing T. Higgins in the league just because of buys and injuries. I just lost Deebo Samuel in that league. So yeah, I'm going to play those guys. So those guys are temper your expectations, but if you do have a better option to lean on, I would consider it this week. The Chargers, they have allowed the second fewest amount of points per game to wide receivers, only giving up 16.1. So the thing with what we're finding out, I think I've talked about this before with the Chargers on these episodes. Like the Chargers, for whatever reason, they defend the outside really good, and then as far as fantasy, all the fantasy points are going into the running back and the tight end. So they struggle to defend the middle of the field. We saw last week, right? Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon ran all over them, right? So this is probably going to be a Joe Mixon type of game. There's a guy I'm going to be talking about, though. They also give up a lot of passes in the middle of the field to the tight ends. So listen, Jamar Chase could go off. T. Higgins could go off, but numbers say that, the Chargers have been at least decent at keeping the fantasy points away from that side of the field. So if you would have any better options, I would highly consider it. But if you do play like a Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, just temper your expectations. So again, top starts for wide receivers. Hunter Renfrow, Deshaun Jackson against the football team. AJ Green, Christian Kirk against the Bears. My top sits, Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar against the Bills, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd against the Chargers. Now go ahead and move into the last segment of the week, my top starts and sits. Like I was just talking about, a little spoiler alert, and carry that right into this segment. CJ Uzomah against the Chargers. Like I said, the Chargers, they struggle to stop the running backs and they struggle to stop the tight ends. CJ Uzomah has been a nice streaming option when the matchup is right this week. The Chargers have allowed the second most allowed points per game to tight ends this year, giving up 11.4. So you got to like the matchup. So if you're looking for a streaming option, maybe you lost Darren Waller, you're looking for an option this week, I would definitely consider CJ Uzomah if he's available in your league. And then my other start as a guy, he looked like he was definitely looked like he was healthy when he was on the field on Monday night. But yeah, Logan Thomas against the Raiders. The Raiders have allowed the third most allowed points per game to the tight end position. They give up 11.3 points a game. He's always been a good fantasy tight end over the last year and a half that you could trust. Now he's back to being healthy. He showed us that he could. He looks like he's back to normal. He didn't re-aggravate anything on Monday night, so I think he's good to go. And he maybe he was supposed to be that reliable fantasy tight end this year. Then he got hurt really early. He's back for the playoff run, so you've been holding on to him all season on your IR spot, and he's finally back in your life. I would definitely play him this week because the matchup says he's going to win. I want to say win you a lot of leagues, but get you some points this week. And then my top sits, some other streaming options people have kind of leaned on throughout the year. I would avoid this week. Cole Kmet against the Cardinals. I think it's because of Isaiah Simmons with his athletic ability and his size and strength against tight ends is a matchup problem in this league. But throughout the year, this number has been steady. The Cardinals have been the top defense against fantasy tight ends. They are where fantasy tight ends will go to die, especially streaming options. So they're only giving up 3.9 points a game. So if you're thinking about streaming Cole Kmet, if he's been an option for you, definitely would avoid doing that this week. The Cardinals have found success at limiting the options for the tight ends in the fantasy world. My other sit, Dawson Knox against the Patriots. Like I was talking about with Josh Allen earlier, it's a Bill Belichick defense that's playing really good football right now. They're really good against the tight end position in terms of fantasy as well, only allowing the fifth fewest amount of points per game to tight ends, only giving up 5.2. I know Dawson's been a good play at times throughout the year, but this is the week I would definitely look to avoid him if you can. So again, my top starts at the tight end position, CJ Uzomah against the Chargers and Logan Thomas against the Raiders. And then my top sits: Cole Kmet against the Cardinals and Dawson Knox against the Patriots. So yeah, that is the video, guys. As always, if anybody took their time out to watch this, I always appreciate the support. Just hit the like button if you could. That's always puts a little smile on my face. And then, yeah, if you haven't yet, if it's your first time watching, make sure you do subscribe to my channel so you can keep up with all my videos. You know, I'm going to be finishing this fantasy season out strong for everybody. I got my weekly preview videos that I do every Saturday where I kind of go into more of a real football aspect looking at the games. And then, you know, when it gets to the off season, right? So like I'm going to do NFL draft content. And then I'm gonna have some ideas that I do throughout the off season as I grow this thing. So I always appreciate the support. So make sure you have subscribed if you haven't yet. Go tell a friend to check me out. Other than that, I'm gonna head out. If anybody has any questions, you guys know how to get a hold of me. Hit me up in the comments of the video. I'll make sure I reply to your comment. You can text me if you got my number. I always say that. If you got, you know, at me at Twitter, slide into a DM. Better options on Twitter. I avoid my Facebook DMs because that's just there's too many people that message me about BS on that stuff. So I'm just being honest, okay? So yeah. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna head out, get this uploaded for you. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. And then for those that like my Saturday videos, I will be back then. And yeah, talk to you guys later.